Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David. I am currently talking about how I will be talking today about how professional gaming should be more mainstream. First, I want to talk about professional gaming and how it should be mainstream. I believe that if it was to be more mainstream, children of all ages would be allowed to they wouldn't feel more as socially awkward and just wanting to stay indoors, and instead of going out partying it up, playing basketball, football, being the high school or middle school, elementary school all-star. As in today's American society, we tend to make that seem like it's the right thing and it's the only thing you can do in order to be socially accepted. While others would say that it's a bad thing that people rely so heavily on video games in order to be not socially accepted, but they rely on video games in order to fill that void where if they're not normal in today's society, they get outcast and shunned. And as a prime example, look at how when you are in elementary school and middle school and we have the kickball team and the football team and stuff, and you have that one person that just gets put on the sideline just because they're not good or anything, but it turns out they're actually really smart, really intelligent. They just don't have that social connection that the normal alpha male would have. So some of this would be correlated to, like, if it was to be mainstreamed, it could end up being nearly as big as the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, Major League Soccer, the Champions League over in Europe for soccer, UFC, and many others that get that worldwide stage, because it's athletes, it's sports, it's martial arts, whatever the case is. But as I've already stated, there's many plus sides. It also makes people feel socially accepted. It's an easier way, or some would say lazier way, of communicating and hanging out with friends. As all of us have experienced in one way or another, there are people out there that just don't have the normal social skills that are required in today's society. It's not necessarily, as I've said, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it tends to become tedious and tiring when there is that awkward, quiet moment when people are hanging out where one person's not really sure what to say, other person's kind of just like, man, what the hell, why is this person so quiet? It's kind of, I like to put it as there's two sides to a coin. So you have the one person that's always talking, always out there, always ready to go, just they always have something to say. And then you have that the other side where people pick and choose their words. They are making sure that they aren't saying the wrong thing, and it just tends to, it's really tough because you could have someone that knows a lot about the history, science, math. I personally care for math, but you know, they could be really knowledgeable in that subject, and because they are socially awkward, they're frowned upon, they're not accepted. So I bring up this awkward normal because it directly correlates to video games, being that, so let's say you have a 6 or 7 year old child and they grow up from the instant, like let's say their dad was really big into football or their mom was like a soccer player or a volleyball player, then that's what they're going to watch growing up. They're going to watch football. They're going to look up to Dan Marino, Zach Thomas, Junior Seau, like all these different, like football, or you have Wayne Gretzky, like you got the hockey players, you got baseball players, you got Anderson Silva for MMA. So they spend their time as a kid watching all these people, and then their parents are like, oh, you're spending way too much time being inside. You need to go outside and play with other kids in the neighborhood. And while that is a good thing, that you're out, you're socializing, you're playing sports, you're being physically active, that's all very good things. Let's say that their mom or dad or the parent, whoever the guardian is sends that child out and goes to hang out with the other school kids, and that kid just ends up sitting on the sidelines because, like I stated before, they're not very good. For whatever reason, they're not being picked. And then, so they go inside and they go and sit and play Xbox or play the Nintendo Wii, or they play the Nintendo Switch, whatever they need to do, and they meet other people online and they get that social acceptance. So in today's normality of US culture, that scenario right there does not stop. Like, it continues from the time a person is 6 or 7 all the way well into a person's 50s, 60s, 70s. Like, some people, they just grow up learning like that, and they never have people break them of it. They never have that chance to feel wanted, accepted, respected, and overall just better about themselves because they play video games. Like, if you meet a really big video game person, they're gonna be like, when someone's like, oh, what do you do in your free time? And they're like, oh, just watch TV or read a book. They never say that they're playing like video games. Never saying they're playing Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, League of Legends, Counter-Strike, Battlefield, Final Fantasy. These are all popular games today in 2019. So in order to, as I was saying, they grow up and they start going into the workforce, and your workplace, they have like functions and stuff outside of the office, and these same people, their entire lives that never got accepted, they go and they're trying to fit in, and they just stop getting invited because they're not that go-to crazy drunk guy that every time they bring him out, there's something funny about him that he does or she does. Like, they go streaking through a bar, or they start a bar brawl, or they're just overall doing extremely stupid stuff. But because that's socially acceptable, it's okay, and there's no repercussions from it. So after you have years and years so you have this person, right, that has years and years of, you could classify it as abuse and social injustice, and then they get into video games even as an adult, because it's those 3 to 4 hours where they forget all the shitty things people have done to them, all the times they've gone out of their way to try and be accepted by people, and it just makes them feel really sad, depressed, lonely. Like, they just start giving up, and a lot of times that leads to depression, and then they start playing video games, and then the isolation of that gets even worse, and then eventually there's suicides. And of course, with suicides, everyone's like, oh, well, that person just sat inside and played video games the entire time. They never look at, oh, he or she went out of his way or her way 1,000 times to try and be accepted by people around them. So they turn to video games, and they start meeting people online, and you have online meetups and set times and everything, and eventually this small group of people that you meet online ends up becoming more of your family than your own family, because they understand you, they have the same mindset as you. And unfortunately, in American culture, video games is still frowned upon. Meanwhile, in Asia, Europe, it's really mainstreamed. It's blown up. It's just tremendous over there. Meanwhile, in America, we're still stuck in our ways. So it's kind of a shitty situation. But the other point I would like to bring up is, so a lot of people are military, or they work in a specific job where unless you're involved with it, you do not understand it. And by playing video games, it's kind of the same correlation, because you're just like, oh, you're sitting there playing a video game for 9 hours. Like, what the hell is up with that? Like, your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever you're into is just like, your significant other is just like, what? You spend all your time playing this and you do that, and it's like, it's an escape. It's a stress reliever when you have all these stressors and stuff in life. So, but that's another whole argument or discussion. So, but back to the point that I was referring to. So you have all these years of neglect and feeling socially accepted, and so let's say the person wants to make it a profession for their life. They can't do that because it's not a sport. It's not something that years and years of science has declared it's the right thing to do. So by making it a professional sport and broadcasting it, as it stands, esports is broadcasted on Twitch TV, YouTube, and then there is also there's other sources out there that you can watch these people compete and play. And if it was just mainstream to like regular cable or satellite TV, and you could easily just flip the channel and watch it, it would create a lot of social balance and justice. Because, so as I stated before, you have a 22, 23-year-old that's been playing video games their entire life, and that's all they know. That's their way of connecting to people. Now we reverse the scale again, and you have this child that's 7 or 8 and is just starting out, and they've already gotten shunned by the big kids, the bullies, the alpha dogs, the alpha males. And so it just recreates this whole structure of something that if you just started from the beginning, that hey, it's okay to want to play video games, it would just create an entire different playing field and make overall everyone happier. Although there are some downsides to being a professional gamer. Like, you have, like, some tend to become overweight, others, like, so overweight, I mean, your eyesight will go quicker, you can get arthritis in your hands a lot easier because you're constantly just using them and twitching and doing a bunch of other different stuff with it. Your brain's constantly processing stuff 1,000 miles an hour to keep up with the pace of whatever game you're playing. You tend to not sleep as much because part of the REM cycles and everything, like, you're just constantly going. But it's the same thing for if you're at work and you're drinking a ton of coffee or energy drinks and you're just trying to keep yourself going so that way you can get that project done for your boss that'll land the next big corporation like Miller Coors, Starbucks, whatever the scenario is. So it's all the same stuff that a normal person would have in their day-to-day job. It's just because it's video games, it's not accepted socially. Again, keywords. It's just overall not a great, there's a lot of negative side effects to it. Although, I will say that as research is showing, you can create a virtual reality, and with that, it would be a great thing, because virtual reality is the exact same thing as a video game, except you feel like you're right there, like you're consistently moving, your character is going this way, that way. And with virtual reality, this is a positive side, I'm sorry, it would be, you could learn to read, write, learn different languages, learn all the different stuff that you would learn in elementary, middle, and high school. But because humans are all different, there's no two alike, not even twins, identical twins. Like, there's still different similarities, different personalities. And by having virtual reality, it's kind of streamlining into, video games would be streamlining into having everything become virtual reality. And it would ultimately help with teaching, because people learn at different paces, and they could Barney style it to that individual person. In closing, I will say esports should be mainstreamed to everyday cable and TV, not only to create a social justice, but to help inspire and teach today's youth that it's okay to be weird or awkward. As we're all human, everyone is different to the next, but unfortunately it has become so normal that being weird is almost the same thing as being shunned or being a leper. With this, I will close my argument as to why esports should be mainstreamed. Thank you.